Welcome back to the 240SX project where we are going to fit the intercooler piping as well as remove some wiring. So I didn't show this last time, I want to go ahead and include on this one, but I finished cleaning up the transmission tunnel to fit the ears on the transmission, and then I got rid of some of the rough edges all the way around. Came out okay. So with the engine and transmission now sitting nicely into the engine bay and in the car, decided to go ahead and address the wiring. So unfortunately, much like a lot of this chassis out there, a lot of really hacked up wires, and my concern was if I continue with this swap that I was going to have shorts down the road, maybe even a fire, albeit the car didn't have any issues driving before, but being them going all in into this swap, I wanted to make sure I addressed everything. So started looking at the rest of the wiring, wire by wire, under the dash, into the engine bay, because I just want this to be a really good clean install when I'm done. So first thing I wanted to do was look at the transmission ECU here and start seeing what I could delete. And the fewer wires that I have, just the happier I'll be as far as tracking the condition of everything. And this is just me kind of showing how to route the wires out of the engine bay. So once the wiring is removed from the transmission transmission ECU, you can start feeding it all through here. But again, I mean, if you check this out, the last owner had put in a relay. This was previously an automatic transmission car, and he swapped to a manual. So I believe he converted the lower transmission automatic harness into a manual harness. And just showing some more areas of where the wire harness will have to be pulled through. So this was previously also a slammed car. So harness was pulled up to clear the wheel well here. And I'm going to be cleaning this up a little bit too. So I'm going to reduce the amount of wires going through here and just trying to clean everything up. And not to mention, I liked having my hands put on everything. So that way when the entire project is done, I'll know exactly how everything was done, where everything is at, and there will be no surprises. So also in this area here, there's a junction box that's mounted right up here on the side of the car. So I'm going to end up loosening this and removing it and just pulling every single piece out. So that way I can start identifying each wire and also looking at the condition of everything. So I went ahead and pulled it out. Both the dash and the engine bay harness, and it's looking pretty clean in there. So I'm gonna eventually pull that motor and trans back out so I can sand the engine bay, prep it for paint. But meantime, I have the engine bay harness, or rather the chassis harness, spread out on the garage floor, and I'm going through it wire by wire to check the condition and also to check to see which each wire is for, what's it attached to, what it does. Used a Nissan wiring harness, some Google, and some old Nico Club forum pages to help me through this entire process. Doing the chassis harness and the dash harness, it was about 2 weeks worth of work, just going through individual wires, fishing them out carefully to make sure that if I cut or got rid of a wire, that it didn't degrade the functionality of something that I was trying to keep. But throughout this process, I want to say between the dash harness and the engine bay harness, I had dropped about 17, 18 pounds. It was a lot of weight, and really just hoping that everything works once it's all back together. But again, I did use diagrams to try to do this as carefully as possible. Now with this project as well, I'm going full on track car, because right, what's an S chassis if we haven't removed everything? So power door locks came out. Obviously, the power seat belts were taken out. Wipers and just pretty much any comfort, amenity, cruise control, etc. Once I was done with that, I decided to go ahead and order an intercooler kit. Now, this wasn't the first choice an intercooler kit. This is a CX Racing kit. It's for the factory twin turbo setup on a 2JZ. However, when I was trying to order the ISR M-Spec intercooler kit, they were sold out. They were on back order, and every company I called to try and get an ISR M-Spec intercooler kit, nobody could give me a date as far as when it would be delivered. So CX Racing became the choice at about $580 shipped. It really wasn't a bad deal, I don't think, for an intercooler, blow-off valve, and all the pipings, couplers, clamps, etc. it definitely exceeded my expectations as far as the quality for $500. The blow-off valve is a knockoff of the old Gretty Type S. I have no idea how it sounds, and I'm not using it. I did buy a tile Cube blow-off valve, so I will be using a tile blow-off valve and not the one that came with this kit. So I just wanted to show the welds on this intercooler. They don't look bad to me. Definitely looks like it'll hold up no problems to about 500 horsepower, because that is the goal with this car, is about roughly 500, 600 horsepower max, nothing more than that. Really don't need it. I already have a Supra that makes plenty of power, so again, this is just going to be a toy, this S chassis that I'm putting together. A couple of fins were bent as they came in the packaging. It really doesn't bother me because you can straighten them out fairly easily with a pick, and it's going to get beat up as I drive it around anyways, but I did not see any dents. I didn't see any real dings in the tubes themselves. This is a bar and plate intercooler, and just showing you the inside here as far as how the intercooler looks. Look pretty good to me. And just a quick overview as far as what all comes with the CX Racing kit. And the piping is actually 3 inches in diameter, so happy with that. It's the same size piping that I have on my Toyota Supra, so this should be plenty. And the couplers, again, I'm not sure about quality, but it should be fine for 500 horsepower, but I was glad it came with all the pieces. Now, I'm not going to complain too much about the quality overall with this whole kit being what I paid for it, but we'll say the blow-off valve flange was incredibly uneven. I don't imagine this would have sealed very well if I used it, so this will be coming off because, again, I am going to be using a tile cube blow-off valve in place of this. So what I did like about the CX Racing kit is that it comes with a lot of mounting brackets to make sure that the intercooler is secure on the car. If I recall looking at the ISR M-Spec intercooler, it had maybe 2 mounting points on the intercooler, whereas this one has approximately 4 when you combine both top and bottom. So the bracket for the bottom, the 2 brackets that you will use are not very secure, but who knows, maybe I put this thing on incorrectly. This kit did not come with any instructions, but yeah, as you can see here, kind of flimsy.
Puts Ukraine on much more equal footing. Another thing you have to remember is that the F-16 is going to have an expected lifespan between 3,500 and 4,500 flight hours. But old Soviet aircraft, on the other hand, are made using older manufacturing techniques and materials, and they only have around 2,000 to 3,500 flight hours built into the airframe. So just as Ukraine has had to cut back on their air operations to preserve their old MiGs and Savoys, Russia also had to keep their oldest aircraft on low intensity
Yeah, doesn't look too bad for the first mock-up. This will give me an idea as far as how the intercooler is going to be sitting on the car. And the next thing I'd like to do is start running some of the piping. Want to run the piping just to make sure that I don't have to cut anything else, so that when I go to sand the engine bay and paint later, and I decide to mount the intercooler again, that everything aligns and that I don't have to do any more extra cutting. Now, like most S chassis, if not all, this battery tray area is disgusting. It's completely rusted out. So I'm going to be cutting this out, the entire thing rather, so I can run the piping and make sure the piping fits the way it's supposed to. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do by that tray area yet. But here it is all cut out. So once it was cut out, I ran the rest of the intercooler piping as well as fitted the intake. And I do like the fact that the intake can sit a little bit outside of the engine bay there to pull in some air. Running the piping now starting to fit all of the couplers. I'm not surprisingly running into a ton of fitment issues. Everything seems to work really well. That cold side piping does hang a tad low, and I think it might be below the bumper once everything's assembled, so I'll end up addressing that later. But for the most part, I wanted to see that I can get this factory twin turbo piping to fit on a single turbo, and as of right here, I'm just going to use a 90-degree elbow to connect the turbo to the hot side piping. But other than that, it fit really, really well for a $500 kit. So I'm actually satisfied with the way it's looking for now. And again, once everything's all put together, I can always tweak it. So I bought a 2.5-inch to 3-inch 90-degree coupler on eBay, and it fit fantastic. Once I maneuvered it just a little bit more, I was able to get it to fit on there without any issues, and it is a fantastic fit. So the entire intercooler now fits onto the car with all the piping and whatnot. Just a quick view of the crash bar. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this or if I'm going to trim it, but meantime, intercooler's fitted, the piping looks good, wiring is out being worked on, and now I can start prepping the engine bay next to get ready to take some paint, and then the engine and transmission will go right back in. Thanks for dropping by. We'll see you on the next video.